Is it a bit cliche for a wife and mom to turn her attentions outside of work and family towards writing romance with a bit of steamy, smoldering smut? Absolutely not! If that's what she's going to write, then that just adds more creativity to the world. This month, we get to meet a fantastic woman who does just that. She's a wife, a mom, she cooks, cleans, works, and she's a gamer. She's the total package. I'm your host, Garrett K. Jones, and I'm interviewing New York-based romance author Thea Landen for this month's Author Awareness. Happy Saturday and welcome back to The Right Way. I know we just finished the Author Awareness April Marathon just 2 weeks ago, but these interviews are some of my favorite segments to do. But if you missed this year's marathon, go ahead and check out the entire list by clicking the button right up here. Last week was both the May Top 10 list featuring Star Wars unboxing YouTuber Darth Tuba. It was also Free Comic Book Day, and Darth Tuba provided his personal top 10 Star Wars books in honor of Revenge of the Sixth. As for me, on Free Comic Book Day, I was down at DJ's Collectibles in downtown Hanford, and I ended up selling several books throughout the day. It was a lot of fun. In fact, check out some of these bits of footage from last week's event. Finally, next Saturday, May the 20th, is my next writing workshop at the Hanford branch of the Kings County Library. We will be practicing writing dialogue and constructing our paragraph structures before we spend most of the class working through a writing prompt. So if you're local and you're interested in being part of this, the class starts at 11:30 a.m. and will run until 1 p.m. I connected with Thea a few months back through Twitter. While her type of romance isn't personally my thing, I still thought it would be a great opportunity to learn more about what drew her to this genre and what inspires her to write. So I hope you guys enjoyed this month's interview. All right, Thea, thank you for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks for inviting me on.
So tell me about what it is that you write. I look at your profile on Twitter. It says smutty romance. Tell me more about that.
Primarily romance, but all of my books have at least one explicit scene, usually by the end, because that's where it makes sense. And sometimes I have fun and scatter them all throughout. So I figure with me, you always know what you're going to get by the end.
And so smutty romance is kind of really, as it sounds, it's just chock full of hot and heavy and sweaty romance.
I do not fade to black. I let you know every single thing that is going on. See, I read those and then I get disappointed. It's like, come on, tell me more. It's nice and I'll tolerate it, but no, I want all the nitty gritty details. So that's why I write it.
So how'd you get into writing? Was this something you've always wanted to do, or was it like you just had this epiphany one morning and you're like, I want to write a book?
Well, how does anyone get involved in writing? We start with fanfic, usually in high school or middle school, and some of those are still floating around the internet somewhere, and we're not going to talk about them. So I started with fanfic, and then, I went to college and got a job and became an adult. And then I got laid off from that job and needed to figure out what I was doing. And then it was when I rediscovered fanfic and started writing more. And then let me try writing my own stories instead of, stealing someone else's worlds and characters. And most of the fanfics I wrote were, quote, clean, as in, none of the smutty stuff we were talking about before. But then I did write some of the smutty ones, and those were popular, and people told me that apparently I do that well. So I took it and I ran with it.
Nice. So what did you draw from as far as inspiration for your fan fiction?
So people who follow me on Twitter already know that I'm a big nerd about this. My favorite fandom or series is the old Phantasy Star series on the Sega Master System and Sega Genesis. And that is where I got my fanfic start. Probably starting when I was like 12 or 13, and then later on as I was older. But I also like the BioWare games, Dragon Age, Mass Effect. I've written a lot for those. And then during the pandemic, the only thing that kept me sane during lockdown was Fire Emblem Three Houses. And I spent all of summer 2020 writing dirty fanfic for that game.
Obviously, video games are a big draw for you as far as inspiration. What are some other media forms that you draw inspiration from?
I hate to say it at this point. I mean, free time is so limited these days. If I'm going to do something like stare at a screen for a while, it's going to be a game. I have not, believe it or not, since I've had a lot of writing and projects going on, I have not really watched TV for a year and a half. People think that's, and my Netflix list is so long. Occasionally my husband will be like, hey, you want to watch a movie? I'm like, sure, all right. But yeah, I have the Witcher series on there. Haven't watched it yet. A year and a half, because I've just been going crazy with writing, promoting, and everything that entails.
You mentioned that you've got a husband. How's your husband feel about what you write?
He's never actually read one of my books beginning to end. Believe it or not. I mean, he knows about it. This isn't, my secret double life or anything. And I'll tell him things like, a proof of a paperback will come in, like, hey, look at this. Last time one came in, he did take it, like, open it to the front page to make sure that I mentioned him in the dedication. And the man was like, oh, okay, cool.
He knows he's loved.
Pretty much. I mean, he does read. He's a very avid reader. He just doesn't read my books. And do that. I wouldn't want things to get weird. I wouldn't want to write things, being like, oh my God, what is he going to think when he reads this?
Has there ever been like some conversation or some element of your marriage where it like somehow has crept into the writing?
Yes. Here's the example I always say. Okay, in one of my books, Closing Montage, which is very briefly an older couple, the husband's dying, we know how that book ends. They use virtual reality to go back and visit like highlights of their life. And one of the scenes takes place at a ski lodge. And I definitely drew on our relationship for that because I've been trying to get him to go skiing since we met, which we started dating in 2008. And the answer I got was, and I quote, I don't want to become the next Sonny Bono. So, you don't have to go into the trees. You can stay at the open part. So I've yet to get him on skis. And so I drew inspiration from that when I was writing the scene where the husband in the book wants nothing to do with skiing. So the wife and the kids, they go out and have fun and then come back at the end of the day. So if we ever do that with the kids, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what is going to happen.
That's awesome.
I know if my husband read that book, he would get to the ski scene and he would come out and be like, what did you do? Why did you write about me like this?
That's awesome. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced in the publication of your work?
Okay, well, I'm kind of split between what I do. Some of my books and short stories I do self-publish. Other ones go through a smaller indie press, Decadent Publishing. I've been working with them since 2014, around there.
Okay.
And they are great and they're wonderful to work with, and I love them and I'm happy with them, and I think it's a really good balance. I mean, will I one day do the whole traditional publishing thing, the query letters, the agents, all of that? Maybe, but for right now, this is not my day job. It's never going to be my day job. So I'm happy where I'm at. Like everyone else, I would love it if more people read and reviewed my books. But beyond that, for publishing, I'm okay with where I am.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to other would-be authors watching this interview?
One thing that I've seen thrown about a number of places is, we're all going to get bad reviews. Just learn to live with them. Never, ever, 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 ever respond to them, but learn to live with them. And I like the advice saying, pick your favorite book, the one that you love, that you recommend to everyone you know. Go on to Amazon, go on to Goodreads. There's going to be people who hated every single thing about it. So you never know what people are going to like, what they're going to dislike, and one-star review, even 5 one-star reviews, does not mean you're a terrible person who should give up forever.
So Thea, how can people get a hold of your work? How can they connect with you?
I've mentioned Twitter a number of times. That seems to be where I'm spending most of my time these days. I have a Facebook page. I just update it when I have news. Same thing with that website, www.thealanden.com. Has a blog on it that I sometimes update, but all my book links are on there. Everything is at Amazon at the moment. I might have a couple at Barnes & Noble and Google Books and some of the other ones. And I do have a mailing list, which is linked somewhere in all those places. You get a free story.
Awesome. Well, Thea, thank you very much for being on the show. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. This was a lot of fun.
If you're interested in connecting with Thea through social media or picking up copies of her work, you'll find those links by visiting the video description. If you're interested in seeing the uncut, unedited version of the interview, you can easily sign up as a supporter through Patreon. There are support options of $1, $3, and $5 per month, and all patron levels get access to the uncut interviews. But the higher you go, the cooler the rewards. Hey, thanks for watching. Please hit like, hit subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications on new videos. You can support the channel on Patreon and the merch store. Those links again can be found down in the video description. Please make sure to tune in on Instagram next week for this month's live stream. And of course, the week after that is Creators Corner with all new writing tips for the month of May. See you then.